Who's next?
At the beginning of the movie, we see a group of friends who have come to the Catskills to celebrate Elise's birthday. While there, they also learn that Haley and Grant have recently broken up. After some time, they realize they have consumed all the beer, and it cannot be delivered to the mansion they rented. Paxton suggests that he is sure the place has booze locked up somewhere, and they all start searching the mansion for it. During this, they find a door with a keep out sign on it, which they ignore, and Lucas breaks the door to get in. They enter the basement but find no alcohol there. However, they discover that the basement is filled with creepy stuff, and Haley tells them that it is all old astrological equipment. Meanwhile, Paxton finds a box of strange tarot cards and shows them to the others. Elise asks Haley to do a reading for everyone, and she agrees but comments that the cards look hand-painted, and she has never seen cards like these before. She explains that each zodiac sign is represented by a card in the major arcana, and by incorporating the planets into the reading, it becomes more accurate. Just before they start, a gust of wind blows, startling them all. Haley suggests they shouldn't proceed, explaining that it's an unspoken rule not to use someone else's deck. However, when Elise insists, saying it's her birthday, Haley reluctantly agrees to do it. She explains that there are 12 tarot cards placed in a circle representing the zodiac, with a very important 13th card in the center, which indicates the overall theme of the reading and can provide clarity to the other cards. Elise, being a Libra, often has her curiosity leading her into the unknown. She is climbing the ladder toward success, but the High Priestess reversed is a warning to perhaps slow down. Rushing could cause her to slip up and suffer a crushing blow. Next, she does Madeline's reading and tells her that when she senses danger, she tends to run, which makes sense because her zodiac symbol is two fish swimming away from each other. However, this month, she should fight that urge and try not to get hung up on things. Meanwhile, when Paxton goes to the washroom, he notices a figure standing outside, but it disappears when the lights suddenly turn on. Here, Haley tells Paige that as a Virgo, she always wants to find logic in things, but this month, that might be challenging. Paige may feel like she is being pulled in two directions because the magician's bag of tricks is deceptive and will prevent her from seeing clearly. Paxton returns, and upon their request for Grant to have his card readings, he declines. Subsequently, Paxton opts for a card reading, during which Haley informs him that the reversed Fool card serves as a caution against acting impulsively. She advises him to remain close to those he trusts, and warns him not to be startled if he feels confined or restricted. Next, she tells Lucas that as a Capricorn, he is a rule breaker, down to earth, and also sensitive. She mentions that she foresees a change in his financial situation, and that love is in the air. However, the reversed Hermit card can indicate poor judgment and serves as a warning to be mindful of his direction. While he is someone who will go out of his way for love, he should remain focused, as the Hermit's light could lead him down the wrong path. Finally, Grant agrees to have his readings, and Haley tells him that as a Leo, he is generous, loyal, and a natural leader. However, Leos can also be headstrong, arrogant, and always feel the need to be right. Grant thinks she is making things up and starts to leave, but Haley stops him and explains that the Devil card represents his shadow side. He is walking a very dark path, and this month he will need to face his demons and make a sacrifice, or he risks losing someone important. Haley then draws cards to read her own horoscope, which reveals that love will be the death of her. The next day, the group returns to campus, where Elise is staying in her dorm alone because everyone else has gone to a frat party. While on the phone with Paige, she comes out of the bathroom and is startled to see a ladder leading to the attic. She calls out to check if anyone is upstairs, and when she gets no response, she closes the attic and goes into her room. After some time, Elise is startled by a sound and hears someone laughing outside. Thinking that some girls have returned, she goes out to check and is shocked to see the ladder again. A figure briefly appears behind her before disappearing. Elise thinks Natalie and Claire are trying to scare her because she can hear someone running and laughing in the attic. She climbs the stairs to check, But when she doesn't see anyone there, she becomes a little scared, and suddenly, some movement increases her fear further. The dorm lights start flickering, and she hears someone laughing from downstairs, but she can't see anyone. When she looks back up, the atmosphere in the attic has changed. She sees the High Priestess card in front of her, and as soon as she picks it up, an entity haunts her, causing her to fall. The entity pulls the stairs up, and when Elise tries to reach her phone, an unseen force drags her back. Terrified, as Elise attempts to flee, the entity bludgeons her to death with the ladder. The next day, all of Elise's friends are shocked and saddened by the news of her death. And since Paige is the most affected by this, Haley decides to stay with her for the night. Later, Paige suddenly wakes up from a nightmare, and when Haley tries to calm her down, Paige tells her that she keeps seeing Elise's face every time she closes her eyes, and believes Elise would still be alive if she had been there. Haley explains that whatever was going to happen would have happened regardless. She shares that she grew up in an old house in Minnesota. Her dad left before she was born, so it was just her and her mom. Her mom got sick, and despite trying numerous treatments, nothing worked. That's when she got into tarot. Initially, it was just a way for her to make sense of things. She did countless readings, and every time, they indicated her mom wasn't going to make it. She couldn't stop death, and she doesn't want Paige to blame herself for what happened to Elise. Meanwhile, the entity appears behind Lucas, but disappears when he turns around to check. Now, as he reaches the train station, the lights begin flickering. Deciding to ignore it, he moves forward, but soon he hears scary noises and is startled to see a figure standing at a distance. The entity begins moving toward him, due to which Lucas gets scared and starts running away, and enters a restricted area in an attempt to save his life. There, he steps on a newspaper that reads, "You die today," and is shocked to see his photo printed on it. As he tries to comprehend the situation, the horoscope that Haley had mentioned starts echoing around him, and before he can make sense of anything, the entity haunts him. In an attempt to save his life, Lucas boards a train and hides, but the entity haunts him again, leading to his death by a speeding train. The next day, the friends are shocked to learn about Lucas's death, and Paige suggests they stay together that night for safety. Haley observes that each death corresponds to the tarot readings, leading the group to suspect something is wrong with the deck, though Grant remains openly skeptical. Paxton suggests they need an expert or someone who understands what's going on, and when Haley searches about the dangers of horoscopes, they come across the name Alma Astron, an expert on the occult and tarot readings. They read an article and learn that a group of people in Mexico died after a reading. The group decides to visit Alma Astron, but she initially asks them to leave. Haley explains that their friends are dying because of their readings, and if they don't do something, they are going to die too. Hearing this, Alma opens the door. Haley explains that 2 of their friends have died exactly as their horoscopes predicted. Alma asks to see the deck, but Haley admits she doesn't have it because she doesn't own it. Alma asks Haley if the cards were in a wooden box with a zodiac wheel on it. Haley confirms and insists Alma explain what's happening. Alma explains that these cursed cards are responsible for several tarot reading group massacres, including an incident in London that she narrowly survived because she did everyone's readings but her own, and since then, she has been looking for those cards to destroy them. She then reveals that the cards belonged to an astrologer in the late 18th century who served a Hungarian count, predicting the future for him. After a reading predicted the count's pregnant wife and child would die in childbirth, and this came true. The grief-stricken count accused the astrologer of witchcraft and ordered his men to kill her daughter. Enraged with grief, the astrologer performed a reading on the count and his close friends, dooming them to death, and then killed herself. She bound her soul to the cards, sealing their fate and hers. Not long after, the count and those closest to him died horrible deaths. She got her revenge, but cursed the cards and inverted the zodiac, and now anyone who has their horoscope read using those cards will have to face the dark side of fate. She urges the group to destroy the deck, which is still at the mansion, if they want a chance at survival. While driving to the mansion, their car breaks down for no apparent reason and stops on a bridge. They become worried because, according to Haley's reading for Madeline, technology will fail unexpectedly. Madeline freaks out, and soon after, she notices a hanged man being drawn on the window. Terrified, Madeline runs out of the car, and the others sense an entity circling their vehicle. They then see the entity rushing toward Madeline with a rope. And meanwhile, when Haley tries to stop Madeline, suddenly a noose falls around Madeline's neck. And before she can react, the entity pulls her up. Grant and other reaches there, only to see Madeline's lifeless body hanging there. Before the entity pulls her up once again, they all get terrified and run away from there. And after going some distance, Paxton decides to leave, stating that he's done with all of this. On his way back to the campus, Paxton gets startled when he hears someone laughing, but finds no one when he turns around. Scared, he tries to flee, but to his horror, he sees the reflection of the fool on the door, and his terror intensifies when he sees the fool standing in the distance, staring at him. Paxton, terrified, enters the elevator to escape the danger, but notices the ascending numbers, and he is boxed in, just as Haley had described in his horoscope. As the door opens, Paxton finds the fool standing right in front of him, and before he can react, the fool enters the elevator and attacks Paxton. On the other hand, Paige books the mansion, and they revisit it. From a website, she reads that some cursed objects need to be physically destroyed, while others have a connection that needs to be severed, and the best way to remove an ancient curse from an object is through destruction by incineration. Haley throws the cards and the box into the fireplace to destroy them, but they are shocked to see that the cards are not burning. They call Alma for help and explain that something resembling the hanged man has killed their friend. Alma reveals that the astrologer embodies the cards like a shapeshifter, bringing the final outcome card to life. Alma tells them they need to turn what the astrologer created against her by separating the astrologer's spirit from the cards. She attempts to communicate with the astrologer, and after a while, she successfully summons her. Haley notices that Alma is bleeding, and Alma tells her she can't move. The astrologer then rises and takes control of the cards, and Alma explains that the astrologer is reading her horoscope. The astrologer draws the Six of Swords, and soon after, Alma is dragged into the darkness. Terrified, the friends try to flee, but their horror intensifies when Alma's lifeless body falls in front of them. During their escape, Paige accidentally gets separated from Grant and Haley, but she hears Haley's voice coming from the basement, calling for help. As she enters the basement, the door slams shut behind her, and Haley's voice turns demonic. The light then begins flickering before the bulb explodes, and Paige then encounters the magician, who traps her in a box and saws her in half. Upstairs, Grant and Haley discuss how to undo the curse. Haley suggests that if she reads the astrologer's horoscope, they might be able to turn the curse back on her. Grant is hesitant about the idea, but Haley insists, saying they are already as good as dead, so they have to try. Suddenly, Grant is pulled out of the window, and Haley is terrified to see the devil moving towards her, which then disappears into the darkness. The death then appears, and just as it attacks her, Haley manages to escape the room. She tries to flee but is attacked again by the death, who tries to kill her. However, Grant intervenes and saves her, and urges her to finish the reading while he stays behind to stop the entity. As Haley runs to complete the reading, Grant is attacked by the devil. As Grant is dragged away by the devil, Haley quickly gives the astrologer a reading with her deck. She notices that all the astrologer's cards are in reverse, indicating immense pain. Haley tells the astrologer that she understands what it's like to have someone taken from you, and that staying stuck in the past won't change the future. The astrologer lifts Haley into the air and tries to kill her in anger. However, Haley defiantly says she read her cards and it's over, and the astrologer then sees the death card. Eventually, Haley lets go of her mother's grief and the astrologer's spirit. As a result, the spirit is consumed by the curse and is burnt alongside the deck. Haley and Grant reconcile over their survival and relationship and start to make their way home. On the way, they reunite with Paxton, who had survived his ordeal after his roommate, Todd, opened the elevator door at the last second, which made the fools disappear. Thanks for facing the frights with us. If you survived this video, drop a like, summon that subscribe button, and brace yourself for more horror. Until next time, stay spooked.